New to breast pumping and confused by all the different parts of a breast pump? Then stick around as this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through all the different pump terminology as well as the different parts of an electric breast pump. So let's start with your pump motor. Now this is the brain of your pump. It is what creates the suction. And it will look different depending on the type of breast pump you have, the model of breast pump that you have. But essentially, every electric breast pump will have a pump motor. It will have an on-off button and different buttons to control your modes and suction levels. It may also have an LED screen as well as additional features such as an inbuilt timer. But this is used to create the suction electrically. So once we have got our pump motor, you are going to need to have your breast shield and flange. Now these terms are interchangeable and they will look slightly different depending again on the type of pump that you have, but it is the part that goes against your breast and it creates a firm vacuum seal over your breast and your breast pump. Now the flange section here is what draws your nipple in. Think of it as your nipple going into your baby's mouth, and that is for the milk extraction. Now, depending on your flange, one thing to note is these actually are different sizes, and it was generally written on the side of your flange or on your breast shield somewhere. You can see here that this is a 24 millimeter. Now this is actually really important because depending on your nipple size, you will need to have a flange to fit your nipple size. So too big or too small, you're going to probably be very uncomfortable. It could cause damage to your nipple and you're probably not going to be as effective during your pumping session. So one way to combat this is if you need to go up a size, you will need to buy a larger breast shield or flange. But if you need a smaller size, you can use one of these, which is called a flange insert. And this, again, you need to make sure that is compatible, that the flange sizes are compatible, but this will reduce down the size of your tunnel to a smaller size to fit your nipple, and it simply slides in. So you have your flange and then the addition option of a flange insert, and that's job is to ensure that your flange sizing is correct for your nipple size. So once we have your breast shield attached, we are going to want to make sure that this goes into a collection container. Now there are a few bits and bobs that we'll go through in a minute that also need to be part of this, but I'll show you there are two different types, three actually, of collection containers. So you have a bottle that simply screws on. If you have a wearable breast pump, you would generally have a collection cup. And some pumps will allow you to directly pump into a milk storage bag. So you do have options available for your collection containers, but basically these are for collecting your milk during your pumping session. They will have different sizes, different capacities, and generally will have the measurements on the side written, so you can see, this one's a bit harder to see, but you can see during your pumping session how much milk you have collected. So I did say that there are a pile of valves and added bits that we need to have in place to create that suction and then prevent milk from getting to places where it shouldn't be. And one of those is a duckbill valve. Now these look slightly different, again based on your pump, but essentially you can see they all have a duck bill on them. Now the point of these is when your pump is running, they open and close, and when they open and release, that's when your pump is sucking in, and then this closes again, and this creates that sucking motion that you get while you are nursing your baby, and it mimics the natural nursing side of things. This generally then gets attached to a connector of sorts, so it goes on to the end during your pumping session. So for this one, it goes on to the bottom here. And then this is what we call a connector. So the connector is what connects all the parts, all your valves together. We then have a diaphragm. Now this diaphragm is to stop milk getting into parts that it shouldn't, like your pump motor. So this one sits on top of this connector, and you can see that's starting to form a part of a pump. This then sits inside our collection cup. So this is part of the Mum Cozy S12 wearable breast pump, and it simply slides in, and you can see that it's connecting all the parts together. The flange then sits on, it's the wrong flange for it, sorry, but sits on the inside. So you can see that, let me get the right side. Here we go. That makes me feel a bit better. So you can see that these parts all start to connect, and then we can simply attach that, if I take this bit out, attach that to our collection container to form our unit, and then your pump motor would simply sit on top. Now you can see in here, this part goes in there, so your diaphragm sits in there, and that stops any air, moisture, breast milk coming into contact with your pump motor. Now on the Spectra, very, very similar, except for it has a backflow protector instead. And what this does, you've got two outer casings with a diaphragm inside. This stops any milk, air, moisture from in your pump, from your flange going into your tubing. So again, it's your diaphragms really to stop any milk getting into parts that it shouldn't. So then when it comes to our tubing. Now, wearable breast pumps, you won't have any tubing, but most single or double electric breast pumps will. And what this does is, as your motor sucks in the air gets displaced in this tubing. Again, it helps with all the vacuum which you need to be sucking out all the milk. I do believe that is all the parts except for your electrical cord. You'll either have a USB option or a plug that goes straight into your power electrical socket. So if you're going to have an electric pump, you need to have an electric source of some sort. Then again, you will also have some pumps which have a rechargeable battery. So they will have a battery inside, but again, you'll still need to be able to recharge them. So overall, these are the parts that make up a breast pump. If you have any questions, please ask and I will do my very best to answer. Hopefully this video is nice and clear, but again, please feel free to ask. I want to make sure you know exactly all the different parts and how to use them. Thanks.